star on my car and one on my chest, a gun on my hip and the right to arrest. I'm a guy who's a boss on this highway, so watch out what you're doing when you're driving my way. If you break the law, you'll hear from me. I know I'm working for the state. I'm the highway patrol. Well, you know me when you see me, 'cause my door's painted white, with my siren screaming and my flashing red light. I work all day and I work all night, just to keep a law and order, trying to do what's right. If I write you out a ticket, then you better drive slow. I'm just doing my job on the highway patrol. I'm a highway patrol, a highway patrol. My hours are long and my pay is low, but I'll do my best to keep you driving slow. I'm just doing my job, I'm a highway patrol.
Charlie, helpful dad, upstanding citizen, and an 18-year veteran of the greatest law enforcement agency in the land, the Rhode Island State Police. That's Charlie's home, modest like the man. Even though he lived on the water, Charlie wasn't much of a swimmer, which will come into play a little later in our story. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. You know, maybe it's best if we just go back and begin at the beginning.
I was privileged to meet with the most innovative steel player of our time, Junior Brown, during the 2002 Nashville NAMM show. I had to start, of course, by asking him how this Git steel creation came about.
Well, I always liked to play both guitar and steel. That's really the reason that I needed it. Didn't like having to pick a guitar or a steel to accompany myself while I'm singing. On a particular song, and then I didn't like at the end of the song having to pick again and unplug and plug into another. It's just very cumbersome. So I came up with the idea of a double neck with one neck the guitar and the other one the steel. on stage, it's really handy because I can switch really quickly between the two.
Right, yeah, I've seen you make that switch quite often.
Yeah. And I've gotten faster at it than I used to be.
I'll say.
You know, I can show you here. Just pulling this out, and then the flip of the switch, and then back in the little belt-lined hole for the ball. After a few years, you get to where it's pretty easy to do that.
Yeah, I've seen where you kind of keep something going over here on this one while you're grabbing the bar, and he's down there and
Yeah.
he's picking on that one, and
Yeah.
away you go.
Open strings are great.
Oh yeah, I love it. You know what? Being that you talk about open strings and all, I think you're also a bit famous for your playing that E string there and tuning that down and actually playing some notes on that.
Yeah.
Is that just something you came up with, kind of fiddling around and saying, hey, I need these notes down here?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I did it a couple of times over a period of years and then forgot. And then I remembered, wait a minute, that was kind of fun, you know, why not do that more, you know? When you have a volume pedal, it's a lot easier because if you don't have a volume pedal, the note is likely to die. It'll die out, it'll decay. But if you have that volume pedal, when you turn it down, it'll just stay on. And that's the reason I think a lot of guitar players don't do that because they don't have the volume pedal. They don't use it.
Right.
I, of course, have it because I'm playing the steel guitar. You have to, so I just got used to using it on the regular guitar as well, as I did with the finger picks. I didn't used to play a regular guitar with finger picks, but when I made this thing, there's certainly no time to put those on and take them off. So,
Right.
And that now I'm got to where I wouldn't want to play a regular guitar without the finger picks. It became part of the style.
Yeah. So you've incorporated that a lot into your six string.
Yeah, and it gives me a lot more metallic, percussive bite on the treble strings than I ever used to have on the regular guitar.
Can I ask one?
Yes.
No.
Help me.
Yeah.
Where's the bathroom?
Back there to the left. Next.
Who were some of your influences? It seems sort of interesting that you were probably both influenced by steel pedal as well as electric guitarists. Is that about right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I usually don't do influences, but for this interview, I watched TV in the 50s and 60s, and it was good. I, of course, listened to the radio, but on the TV, you could actually see the guys playing the electric guitars and the steels and things. That was really the only connection I had to it. If I hadn't seen it actually on film, on the screen, and I really wouldn't have known what a steel guitar was because my folks never, took me to any concerts like that or anything. So when I'd watch the Ernest Tubb show, for instance, I could see Buddy Charles playing this thing with like an ironing board, and I could tell he had a little piece of metal in his hand. I didn't know what they called it, but it affected me. It did something to me.
She likes to hear Hank moan the blues, Bob Will's Faded Love. But my baby don't dance to nothing but Ernest Tubb.
In the same way with, with the rock and roll stuff. Ricky Nelson would sing on the Ozzie and Harriet show, and at the end of almost every show, at the end of the show, Ricky would sing a song, and there would be James Burton playing the Telecaster, so I could see the whole thing as if I was at a concert. And then later on, I got to see things here and there. if I went to the circus, the circus would have a band, and I'd go up there and just stare at the guy. They'd have an electric guitar player usually. And the circus came to our town every year, and they'd set up on a parking lot, which was right across the woods from where we lived. So that was an influence, that band. And then I went to a March of Dimes benefit one time down on the street. It was like a street dance. Everybody was doing the twist. That's when the twist was big. I'm giving away my age here, right? I was about 8 years old, 9, something like that. And there was a band playing, and I just knew, I think at that moment, that's what I wanted to do. Just the sound of that live band, there's nothing like it. The sound of a live band, and a recording never quite catches that. It's like the brassiness, the way the cymbals sound, and the way that there's sort of a crispness on the top of it that you don't get in recordings, not even live recordings. The sound of being right there and feeling that the air coming at you and everything. So those early memories are really my biggest influences, and I draw on those when I'm playing. I still go back to those for inspiration.
Yeah, I've heard a bit of kind of the Hendrix ending at the end of the Hank Garland tune in there,
Yeah.
So I know somehow you must have one day saw Hendrix and went, now that's the guy who goes outside the box or something.
Oh yeah. Well, Jimi Hendrix was he changed it all around. A lot of people don't realize that before he came along, there wasn't much string bending going on, and the things we take for granted in electric guitar playing now with the distortion feedback and string bending, and there really wasn't much of that. The Yardbirds were doing a little bit of it, but not near to the intensity that Jimmy did, and he turned it all around. He gave us another way of looking at the electric guitar that I was very intrigued with. I didn't like everything he did, but I was sure interested in the whole approach and the way he'd improvise and jam and that kind of thing, and the way he was rooted basically in the blues, just blues in overdrive. That's all it was, and with some other things thrown in. It definitely changed my outlook on the guitar. Because before that, we were playing, everyone was really kind of stiff, the strings were heavier, and you didn't bend them that much, and some of the blues players did, but
you didn't light your guitar on fire before that.
Yeah, right. And I got the lighter fluid after that. I went out and purchased my first can. I'll never forget that. It said Ronsonol on it. It was yellow and blue. Memories.
He even brought Mitch Mitchell in on one of your albums there.
Right. I like the way Mitchell would play the sort of a jazz approach to rock music, and a lot of most drummers weren't doing that at the time. They were just pretty straight rock, and you do a lot of polyrhythms and paradiddles and this and that, and breaking up the time signatures and things. But Mitch Mitchell really did, and added a very nice thing, I thought, to the sound they had. And so I was thrilled to be able to get him to play on a song that I'd written in that style called "Keeping Up with You."
Yeah.
What you've been up to? Oh, it's getting crazy trying to keep up with you.
Well, that's a really intriguing question, because so many of the styles have been taken. It's sort of like, I'm sorry, you can't use that style. It's already been taken. And it's that way with songwriting too. I mean, there's only 12 tones in the scale, and there's only so many ways to arrange them, you know. So when I write a song, the lyrics aren't near as critical to me as getting a good melody that doesn't sound like something else. And it's the same way with, like as you said, steel guitar styles as well. But it's a tough question, and you just have to keep searching. You know, you have to keep just trying to find that thing inside of yourself that goes beyond the imitation. The imitation is important when you're starting out, but then you have to cut the umbilical cord and move on and find out what you want to say and capitalize on those little bits of creativity that come only from you. And the more you play, the more you get those, and the more you can, lean on them. You know.
Well, it's interesting that you kind of go to the music over the lyrical content, because I even think of you being just as equally as unique with what you play as with your lyrics. I mean, you find these little ironic twists of thing, KGB, and and a lot of the little things you find in there. I just, my wife thinks you're dead. I mean, it's filled with some of the greatest lyrics out there. So it's kind of interesting. How do you kind of get some of those particular feels?
Well, usually for the more humorous ones, for any of them, I'll come up with a hook line, which is usually the title, and write a little story around that. And a thing like a song like I Hung It Up, it'll be another way. It'll be I'll have like a guitar jam type of thing that I'll write lyrics around. But mostly I'll write the title first and think of a title and then write the story around, like Hillbilly Hula Gal. Well, who's the Hillbilly Hula Gal? What does she do? Well, let's see. She lives in Hawaii, and she's really from Tennessee, and she's trying to be a hula girl, but
an interesting twist.
And then you come up with a little story. So, no pictures, please.
And driving the car through the fence while watching you walk by, you've got some great lines in there, throughout your songs.
Thanks.
But I've also noticed a very, serious vein. And there also, you have some songs, about the kids on your last album, and Little Town Square.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
it's like you also look, look deep into things.
Yes, that's an important thing. I'm glad you noticed that, because a lot of people, they'll typecast you as one thing, one kind of guitar player, one kind of writer, one kind of this, one kind of that. They want to put you in that little box, and I didn't really set out to be more multifaceted than that. It just sort of happened that way. But yeah, I can't just write funny tunes. I can't just write serious ones. I have to write both, because I have different ways of looking at things. Some things are funny, some are serious.
Yeah.
So there's definitely the spectrum of stuff in there.
Yeah, Wake Up America, I heard that and I went, wow, these...
Grow Up America.
Grow Up America, yeah.
Same.
I felt like it, Wake Up America.
It'd be the same,
That's the sequel, right?
yeah.
I wanna be like Buddy Lee and help out everyone I see. I'd help my neighbors with Tai Chi like Buddy Lee. But if I had any sense in me, I would not be Buddy Lee. Lee Dungarees can't bust 'em.
Tell us about your plans with the instrument. Any ideas of maybe...
I'm asking $600 for it. It can be cut into two parts. I'll get $250 for each one. If you act before 5, I think we can make a special deal. No, this is the second one that I've had made, and I've got 2 more being worked on right now. One of them will have pedals on it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Instead of 8-string steel guitar. Well, pedals on the steel, I should say, not on the guitar part. Some guys use those, but I don't use them. But on the steel part, it'll be a different tuning. You have 10 strings instead of 8, and then knee levers and hip levers and this and that, because I'll be standing up. It's very difficult to play pedal steel when you're standing up, because you've got the foot pedals and the knee levers. And, we'll see. You know? It'll be a lot of trial and error getting that thing to work, but I think we can do it.
Oh, that'll be a sight to see.
How much trial and error was put into this thing?
Not that much. When I had the original idea, I was going to glue a steel guitar to a regular guitar. Went to this fellow named Michael Stevens, who at that time had a shop in Austin, Texas, and told him what I wanted to do. He said, no, we're not gluing anything. We're going to make a single body for this thing, and we're going to make one instrument with 2 necks. But it was basically, it almost looks like 2 things glued together. It was the same idea I had. I had this little dream about it, that I was playing this instrument. It goes back to this little zither I had. I had a little zither, a piece of a zither. A guy in Hawaii had cut off a piece of a zither and made a lap steel out of it. It was very small. So he gave that to me. He said, well, this would be what you'd want to glue on your guitar because it's small. Well, I couldn't play it very well because...
Attention exhibitors, as a reminder, the sound level on the show floor must not exceed 85 decibels.
Can you have me hold it a little bit while you talk about it?
Please
yeah.
keep in mind when demonstrating your equipment. If you plan to hand carry any musical instruments out of the facility, you must obtain material release pass. These are available in the show office. Please have your exhibitor badge and matching photo ID when obtaining a material release
He
pass.
has his ID.
Only exhibitors can remove products from the building.
Okay, one right here.
All product must be accompanied by a material release pass.
All right.
Did you get all that?
Did you get all that? But anyway, this is a little zither thing, so I knew it wouldn't play very well, but that was sort of the beginning of the thing, gluing a little zither onto an electric guitar. And then when I went to this guy, he said, no. When I had that dream, see, it wasn't the zither anymore. It was the steel guitar that I liked to play, and it was the guitar I liked to play. And they had somehow come together in this dream, and I thought, yeah, what's with this little zither thing? You just play the steel guitar, and you play guitar, and you don't have to really, nothing has to be smaller or anything. And, they make double neck guitars, they make double neck steels, and why not one of each? And I've asked that question many times why somebody hadn't come up with this. It may have something to do with the fact that you want to play the steel this way, horizontally, and you want to play the guitar vertically. I split the difference. I have a stand, and so a little bit, you have to sort of give a little on each one and get used to that. That may be one of the reasons that nobody came up with it until I did.
Yeah.
Not for everybody.
Yeah, not to mention it's not just something you walk in and start playing. It's not like you have a lot of people who play 8-string lap steel,
Yeah.
And are able to also kick it up on the 6.
Well, these days, there are more of them than there used to be. When I started playing without the pedals, it was unheard of. Nobody played without them. And that style had been gone for a long time, and everybody had pedals. That was just what you did. But now that whole lap steel thing has come back in, and a lot of guitar players kind of play lap steel on the side for a novelty type thing. Used to be they didn't touch it. They didn't even know what it was. The only steel guitars you ever saw had pedals on it.
Yeah.
And then before that, of course, before the pedals were invented, that's all they had were the non-pedal, which was in the 50s.
Yeah, I've always been too intimidated to try a steel. I mean, it's like, it's got 8 strings on it. It's like, what do I do with the other strings? And
Yeah. First time I ever played one, it was kind of odd because I wanted it to be a chord that I could slide around, like a slide guitar. And it wasn't a chord; it was a bunch of notes. And wait, I have to pick out little clumps of this big thing instead of being able to strum. So that whole thing was different to me.
What was the first instrument you played?
Piano.
Is that right?
Yeah, I was playing on the piano before I could talk, what they tell me, making up little melodies and things. But later on I took to the guitar because I just loved the sound of the steel. The steel against, metal against metal. When you push a string down on a fret, that's a metal against metal thing. And so I just took to it. I always liked it. And then later on I really took to the steel. And didn't have one. There weren't very many places where you could buy a steel guitar when I started getting interested in it, so I had to really look around. In fact, it had gone out of music. Steel was pretty much buried, and then sort of came back later, and I was able to buy a pedal steel. And I used to play steel guitar rag on a little 6-string lap steel that I had. And everybody would like it. I remember I'd pick it up in the middle of a set and start playing steel guitar rag. And everybody would, hey, what's that? And that sort of spurred me on. I didn't work harder at it.
Yeah, it's one of the instruments that is a bit more unique. You don't just walk in everywhere. At least I'm a California boy, so it's really hard to walk around someplace in California and find somebody playing a steel guitar of any type.
Yeah,
and
it's kind of gone out of style again. It's still in the modern country music, but just barely. It's almost like a little effect in the background. It's almost not there, and it really wouldn't matter if it wasn't there at all. I think it'll make a comeback. It always has. It goes away for a while and then comes back. We just need some of the young players to get out there and come up with another approach to it.
somebody taking it outside the box like you do.
Well, I try. I'm not one of these, what you call a top 40 commercial artist, in the sense of radio pop and charts and all that stuff. But I think maybe someday if we can get away from some of this techno button-pushing approach to music, we'll see some of the younger people bringing it back into the top 40 format where there's some playing going on instead of just button pushing. Power chords, 3 power chords, something with a little more creativity to it. I mean, even heavy metal has licks in it now. That's out of the way. No more licks. We don't need licks anymore. Where's it going? Man, that guy pushes buttons real good. He scratches that turntable like nobody, So I think it's got to turn around because it's going in a direction that's not musical. We need to get back to it.
Do you do much with dobros or any of the acoustic?
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, I've heard some, but.
Yeah, I played a fretted dobro on my most recent album. Did this just come on? And the fretted dobro just played without a bar. It played like a regular guitar, but it's just like it's a dobro with the resonator on it, and then played with just by fretting it rather than the bar style.
Yeah, kind of a bluesy,
Yeah. Well, there's something about the sliding, the sound of something sliding that's always been very, I guess, romantic and just different, and I think that's why the Hawaiian guitar craze took off so strongly in the teens, before the Roaring 20s, before jazz kind of knocked it out. Hawaiian was really big, and I think one of the reasons was that sort of romantic, exotic sort of sliding sound, and it's very appealing, and in the wrong hands it can be very dangerous. It has to be done.
In my hands, he's talking about me.
No.
You don't have to get personal.
No. Just restrained sensibility. It's like a fiddle in the wrong hands.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, it can be abused very easily, and then it gets stigmatized because they think it's corny because it's been, it has that. I mean, if you talk to somebody about Hawaiian music today, they'll kind of look at you like, oh yeah, Hawaiian music. They see it as a parody of itself. They don't see the real romantic beauty and the roots of it. They see the caricature that it's become.
Could you give us your thoughts on the importance of music with children?
Yeah, well, I think, as in all of the arts, we're losing that, we're losing the funding and we're losing the desire and the drive to teach the kids about music and art. I think a lot of the teachers in the schools now are at the age where they grew up without much of it, so they don't have the desire to pass it on. And it's just, our society in general is just losing its culture, and we need to just hang on to that because it's so important. I saw a television commercial that I thought was pretty intriguing about supporting the arts, and it was a kid, he's walking by a classical violinist in the park who's playing this beautiful classical thing, and he goes, "Get a job." And then he walks by, and then he's in the next section. He's a guy is making sculptures out of balloons, and he said, "A giraffe." He goes, "I don't see it. I don't see a giraffe." And it was that kind of thing, and I thought it was real thought-provoking about the kids are never going to see it if they're not if they're not exposed to it. So I think art and music are both very important to instill in kids early on.
I want to be like Buddy Lee and help out everyone I see. There'd be no job too big for me. I want to be like Buddy Lee. But then it occurs to me, it might hurt to be like Buddy Lee. Lee Dungarees can't bust 'em.
Yes, it's a Fender medium pick, plastic brown.
I'd sort of be interested on how you got your first record contract. How did that come about?
Well, I'd been playing all over, wherever I could get an audience, and I decided to go back to Austin because I'd always had good success in Austin playing with other groups, and I put a group together down there in the early 80s with my wife, and we started playing at a place called the Continental Club. He's looking at his watch. Oh, here goes another one of these long-winded stories. Let's see, and then in 1982, I woke up one day.
You start hearing the Continental Club.
Yeah, the Continental Club. Okay. Who's next here? Played down there, got a Sunday evening gig, and first it was just, maybe 3 guitar players in the audience, and that was it. That was the audience, 3 guitar players. And then a couple of weeks later it'd be 10, and then gradually it filled up with people, and it became like a Sunday evening thing to go see our group. And we played one of those media conference convention type, whatever you call it, called South by Southwest down there that they have every year, where everybody from the music industry goes down, and all the clubs become showcase clubs for bands looking for a record deal, basically. And I thought, well, yeah, I'm kind of skeptical about it. They said, no, you should show yourself off to the industry any way you can, So we played a little set down there at the Continental Club, got a really good slot. I believe it was on a Thursday night, but it was a good slot where we knew everybody would probably be there. And that's what led to it. That one night, we were pretty much unknown before that, and then after that night, a lot of people knew about us. And that was a turning point.
Did you have the Get Steel yet at that point?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I've had the Get Steel since '85, and this was in I don't know, 90, 91, something like that. And then shortly after that, just one thing after another happened after that, including the record contract and that kind of thing. So it's it pays not to get discouraged if you can just get your own style and be proud of it and just shout it to the world. They'll laugh at you at first, but after a while, they might just like it and take it seriously. Because I got skeptical. I've been doing this a long time, pretty much the same kind of styles that I have now. I'm a little better at it now than I used to be, but it's the same kind of thing. And I used to, a lot of people, would look at me sort of, what's that guitar? What are you doing wearing that suit with the tie? What's this all about? They didn't get it, and it was frustrating for me, and that's what I'd be playing the traditional country type stuff, and then you'd be playing in some bar, and these guys with the little alligators on their shirts, and going, I could cut a rug with that, making fun of you, and you're playing good, but they don't know it, They just think you're some old hack, And that was when I started reaching down, turning that volume up on that amp. Oh yeah, and smoking them, and they're like, boy, that guy, he is pretty good. Yeah, he's all right. Because the pain, they love that. So.
I think you talk about that in one of your blues songs a little bit. I can. What is it? The one where
I'm not sure.
Where you're walking through the barnyard and you got it all over your shoe, and you get to the point where I can play it.
Oh, okay. I think I know what you mean. But see, if I hadn't had that, I'd be stuck in that old retro sort of parody of an old time music thing, which really doesn't work. It's sort of like, oh yeah, these guys get dressed up in their little Western outfits, and they're just like, some old country guy. Well, I didn't want to be like some old country guy. I want to have my own style that, uses the things I like about the past, but is also modern and unique in its own way. And sort of the flashy rock style blues, whatever, electric guitar is a part of that. So that takes it out of the traditional country realm a little, and makes it something different that uses all those elements, hopefully in a way that's honest and not just gimmicky, but something that really adds to the music. Like I won't throw in a rock solo into a nice, pretty country song, but I will throw in something that maybe they haven't heard in an old style country song, a different approach to it, depending on what the song is and what I feel like is called for. And like, again, it's all experimentation. It's all finding out what works, what expresses your feelings in an honest way, and it can be unique. That's not a copy of something.
I want to be like Buddy Lee and help out everyone I see. I'd go to coffee with Chuck D like Buddy Lee, but at times it occurs to me it might hurt to be like Buddy Lee Dungarees. Can't bust 'em.
How easy is it for a performer to also want to tinker around with their instrument?
Well, I think a few years ago it was more prevalent, and I don't want to get too deep about this, but the whole Industrial Revolution was all about tinkering and coming up with new ideas, and a lot of the musical instruments came about as a result of that tinkering. Leo Fender and people like that, Paul Bigsby, Doc Kaufman, all these guys tinkered with instruments, and George Beecham, spelled Beauchamp, Rickenbacker guy, and the Dopera brothers, all those guys were tinkering with ways early on. For instance, on a resonator guitar. Well, the resonator guitar they were trying to come up with some way where you could hear it better, because you couldn't hear guitars very well anyway. And then steel guitars, which they called steel guitars, which were just acoustic back then. The steel was just the bar, so they called it steel. It wasn't because the guitar was made of steel, but you couldn't hear them. The guy'd be playing great. You could hear him on a record, but you couldn't hear him. So there was this need to come up with some way to hear the steel guitar. Well, what did these guys do? They tinkered, and they came up with this resonator that would kind of push the highs a little bit, and the idea coming from, I think it was, they got the idea from a phonograph somehow. I can't remember exactly what that was, but how that tied in. But then they used that technology to come up with an electric guitar, taking an electromagnet. Guy had some chips. He was messing around on his kitchen table, and he noticed that these metal chips were attracting to a magnet somehow. And he was going, well, wait, if I interrupt that field with a string, that electromagnetic field with a string, I can get a sound coming out of there. Well, how did he know that? I don't know. How did they come up with the vibrations coming through a phonograph needle and having that turn into music? I'm still baffled by that. I still don't get that. A tone arm and a little needle and then these little grooves in plastic. To me, that's incredibly high tech, just to try and understand it. How vibrations become an orchestra, you know. But anyway, so it was just tinkering, and that's what led to the steel guitar. That's what led to the ability for people to hear someone playing a steel guitar. And then they say, what, necessity is the mother of invention.
Is it interesting to you, or maybe flattering a little bit, to be in the company of other people like Les Paul, who also sort of tinkered as they play to try to improve their sound?
Yeah, well, they're all way more inventors than I am. I'm not really an inventor. I just basically took two instruments that were already invented and put them into one. People like Les Paul, I mean, they came up with all kinds of things, you know, like the multi-track recording. I mean, come on, I could never have come up with that because I'm not that technical. I'm more of a player. Some people are more technical than others. But I mean, some of the great things that guy came up with. I mean, the idea of sticking another head in there, getting Bing Crosby to bring him an Ampex machine that he could cut up, you know. Just if you read the stories, it's fascinating at how funky the whole situation was. They were just tinkering, you know. You look at some pictures, and he's got these big water cooler things for reverb, these big water cooler bottles and things with mics in them and stuff. It's just, you know, Frankenstein's laboratory. It's a lot of fun to see how these guys did it. Paul Bixby, you know, the guy built motorcycles, you know, and he wound pickups on a little sewing machine motor. I mean, it was, we haven't really come that far since all those guys came up with that. Electric guitar has not, it hasn't advanced. It's like the internal combustion engine. The cars we drive now are basically the same thing as the Model T Fords that Henry Ford was making. They've improved, but it's the same, all the same systems are in place that, you know, internal combustion, firing a piston, that's still going on, you know, gas. So we haven't really come that far. There's a lot of room for invention. As I alluded to earlier, I just hope it doesn't go so far into the technical direction that it becomes button pushing, as I said, and then we lose the human part of it. And I think we're in danger of doing that if we don't look at the invention with some kind of sensitivity as far as preserving the human thing, you know.
That's great. People go through phases and, you know, peaks and valleys, and, you know, so there comes a point where you just got to come back to the touch and feel.
Right.
And it's not like a piano where you sit down and you press it, and this is how much you can get. I mean, you know, all the expression.
Well, the same way with the piano, though, he still has that human touch.
Yeah.
You still can't get a machine to do it the way a human can do it. There are people that tell you can, but they're wrong. Yeah, they're to serve us, and that's what people are forgetting. They are here to enhance our lives, not to dominate our lives or dictate what we do. And getting caught up in these computers and things like that, people are starting to forget that. They're letting the computer run them, and I think it's dangerous. I really do. Yes? Yes, you in the green there.
Yes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2002 NAMM Summer Session.
We'll adjust.
The Arena Hall.
Yes, I'll address that in a minute.
Thank you for joining us today, and have a great show.
Thank you. Have a nice life. Please don't interrupt us again. Love you. Bye.
This time I gotta backtrack and see if I can find a way back home. I couldn't take her out of Texas, so she thinks I gotta make it on my own. And now it sure is a long walk back to San Antonio. And now it sure is a long walk back to San Antonio.
I'm always fascinated by the interplay and interrelationship between musical sounds and lyrics, word sounds. When you write, how does that work through you?
Well, that's really an interesting process because I don't understand it. As I said, I usually come up with a lyric or a part of a lyric first, a little hook line, and start writing words. And then all of a sudden this music just sort of comes out of, as I'm writing the words, this melody will come. Now, how does that happen? I don't know. It's just, the words have to take a certain direction, and then they just sort of do. And you start playing the guitar around, and oh no, that chord won't work, but that one is a little better. And it's sort of like when you're making a picture of let's say you're carving something out of wood or something, and you're making a boat. Well, you carve away everything that doesn't look like a boat. And how do you do that? Well, I don't know. And it's that way with the lyrics and the music. And as it goes on, it sort of takes on a direction, and then you know which way to go with it. Like the time signature and that kind of thing. The lyrics will dictate what kind of time you want to have with it. And the more you have, the more of a direction that you have to go with it. All right, I hope that makes sense.
It does.
It doesn't to me.
No, it makes sense. Does it ever work the other way, where you hear the music and then...
Yeah, sometimes, but not as often. Yeah, a lot of times with a musical thing, it'll be like a jamming instrumental, and then you can sort of write some words around that. But usually it'll come out sounding like that. It'll sound more like an instrumental tune than a lyric tune.
I see.
Like a blues or something. A blues would be, you're saying something in the lines that you're feeling of the blues, but musically, it's more interesting because it's a jam. It's a place to jam instrumentally, more than a lyric thing about I woke up this morning, my baby walked out. Other people would say that's wrong. It's all about the lyrics, but that's not how I see it. It's the feeling, and the music is part of that feeling.
Now you stepped outside your comfort zone on Mixed Bag. You've got some Dixieland on there.
Yeah.
How did that come up?
I always liked that song, Riverboat Shuffle. I had a 78 of it when I was a kid. My dad had bought some 78s, and I always wanted to see if there was a way I could fit into a Dixieland situation, a New Orleans jazz band situation. Of course, with git steel, what do you do, So I got the trombone part, and I played the trombone part on steel, which is like sliding, And I thought, well, I can do that, So I was the trombone guy. And, it was fun. It worked. Yeah.
It did work.
Yeah. I got a little amp that distorted just enough to almost sound like air blowing, just just where you could push the speaker a little bit, and then I didn't use this. I used a steel that had a more metallic sound to it. It had a metal neck on it, Bigsby actually, and so I researched it, how to get the most trombone-like sound out of it, and you listen to part of it, you can't really tell it's a steel. It just sort of fits right into that ensemble, like you know, they don't know there's a different instrument.
Wonderful steel player, and he left the scene, I guess, about 10, 12 years ago, maybe years ago.
More than that, yeah.
Do you think with him coming back now, do you think that it'll change the way that you hear steel on albums now, as opposed to maybe bring some of his style back, so to speak?
Yeah, he is really probably my greatest influence instrumentally, Lloyd Green. There's just not enough I can say about his ability to make a record sound good, and every time I go to a flea market and look for albums to buy, I don't buy very many CDs. I buy some, but mostly I buy LPs, because that's where you can find more music on there. They haven't turned the music that I like into CDs, very much of it. Some of it they have, but so I'm always looking for these records that were recorded in between, say, 64 and 74, which was really the renaissance of so much of our culture, and particularly country music. There was so much good stuff going on at that time, and Lloyd was a big part of it. So I look for the records that have him on that, as well as some of the other great session players, Buddy Harmon on drum, Bob Moore on bass. It's usually a lot of those same guys that made a lot of those records. And yeah, he's coming out of retirement, and he's going to start playing. He's recording an album right now. I sang on one of the songs. Have you heard it? Thanks. And played on another one, and another one of the songs. And I think he's got Gillian Welch singing one of the tunes, and it's gonna shake things up. I think it's really, really good. Yeah, it's this one back here, Doc. You got the drill going, man. Bring over the nitrous oxide right here.
He'll be here tomorrow, by the way.
Oh, he will?
Yeah. My dad's got 2 badges for him.
Oh, good. And he's...
I'm over at the Carter booth if you get a chance.
Oh, I'll stop over, yeah.
He'll be by tomorrow.
Yeah, I hope he can to answer your question, I hope he can turn things around a little more and make these records that they've got going on. Do I need to wait till they stop that, or make the records a little more interesting, you know, instrumentally than they are.
The same old stuff coming over, which I've noticed it a lot. You hear the same thing.
Yeah.
Lloyd, you never really heard the same thing.
No. Every time Lloyd would play, he would try and make the record, give each record a unique sound and a character, different approach, so all the records didn't sound the same like they do now. So, you know, if the players are bored, then the listener's going to be bored. And Lloyd was never bored. He always took every opportunity to play, you know, to play his butt off and do it in a way that wasn't overbearing. It was always tasteful and just right for the particular record. And I think if he can bring that back, yeah, some of these records are going to start sounding a lot better, better than they deserve to. So,
I appreciate it.
yeah, it'll be good to hear how he gets in there and changes the sound of the music coming out of this town. And he was always, you know, Mr. Nashville Sound. That's what they call him, because he was the guy, the steel player. And so you got a lot of these guys sort of trembling in their boots, you know. The man's coming back to work, you know. Trouble's back in town, you better leave. Long overdue, yeah. I think the last session he did was Dolly Parton's long black limousine or long white limousine album. Yeah, and that was in the mid '80s. That was 84. I thought it was a little later than that, but you might be right. And that, I think, did Ricky Skaggs produce that? I think he produced that, and that was Lloyd's last session, and so it'll be long overdue. Yeah. Huh? Yeah, me too. Yeah. A lot of people are talking about it. Yeah. Wow.
Would you? Are you interested in?
Sounds like the Tokyo airport in here.
Yeah, I know. You know, we get a crowd. In
there is no parking. You may not move your car. Please be prepared for the probe. It's just routine.
That's right. Would you be interested in wrapping us up with a tune? I brought an acoustic in case you didn't have.
Could. Sure.
Want to throw something out?
Yeah, I don't know if I can hear me with all this.
Well, we'll throw another mic up. You want to try an acoustic, or you want to try something on there?
Well, you won't be able to hear it, so let's do the acoustic. We want to hear.
Whatever you like.
Any requests? All right, we can do that. Let's put a little tip jar right here. I got a star on my car and one on my chest, a gun on my hip and the right to arrest. I'm the guy who's a boss on this highway, so watch out what you're doing when you're driving my way. If you break the law, you'll hear from me, I know. I'm working for the state, I'm the highway patrol. Well, you'll know me when you see me, 'cause my door's painted white, with my siren screaming and my flashing red light. I work all day and I work all night, just to keep in law and order, trying to do what's right. If I write you out a ticket, then you better drive slow. I'm just doing my job, I'm the highway patrol. I'm a highway patrol, the highway patrol. My hours are long and my pay is low, but I'll do my best to keep you driving slow. I'm just doing my job, I'm the highway patrol. If you're driving too fast like you shouldn't do, you can let your boots, I'm coming after you. If you wanna race, then get on the racetrack. Or if you try to run away, I wanna bring you back. I'm here to keep all the speeders driving slow. I'm just doing my job, I'm the highway patrol. Yeah, I'm a highway patrol, the highway patrol. My hours are long and my pay is low, but I'll do my best to keep you driving slow. I'm just doing my job, I'm the highway patrol. I'm just doing my job, I'm the highway patrol. Pull it over, son, pull it over. Thank you, folks.
Great. Thank you.
You're waking me up at the break of dawn, making me put my old overalls on. Sleepy time is done come and gone, but I ain't gonna work today. Milk the cows and slop the hogs till you come up with a tougher job. Don't want you to think I'm a lazy slob, but I ain't gonna work today. It's not that I'm complaining, I'm trying to pull the load, but you weighted down the apple cart, the old horse can't get a hold. A man can't spend his whole life hanging nails and baling hay. too many chores. I'm tired and sore, and I ain't gonna work today. I'm out to pasture as of now. The old mule done got too tired to plow. Too much sweat coming off my brow, and I ain't gonna work today. I got a good fishing hole that's cool and clear, and a good fishing pole that I keep right here. I'll make it up tomorrow, honey, have no fear, but I ain't gonna work today. If it's dripping, get a bucket. If it's peeling, get some paint. If you think of one more job for me, it's gonna have to wait. 'Cause a man can't do his work unless he's got some time to play. I'll be cutting corn tomorrow morning, but I ain't gonna work today. I'll fix the barn and everything on the farm, but I ain't gonna work today.